connecting Booker T. Washington, Andrew Carnegie, and Ida Turnbull to wealth. Booker T. Washington was an educator, author, orator, and political leader. He was born a slave but was set free after the Civil War. Washington's work on education issues helped him enlist both the moral and substantial financial support of many major white philanthropists such as Andrew Carnegie and William Howard Taft. Washington associated with the richest and most powerful businessmen and politicians of the era. He was seen as a spokesperson for African Americans and began a conduct for funding educational programs. His belief was that African Americans should concentrate all their energies on industrial education and accumulation of wealth and the consolation of the South. Andrew Carnegie is a true rags to riches story. However, he used his riches to help the rest of the world. After immigrating from Scotland with his family, he became a bobbin maker and then a telegrapher before building the biggest steel industry in the entire United States. In later life, he became one of the greatest philanthropists of all times, giving money to establish libraries, schools, and universities, not only in America, but across the world.
In 1868, when he was 33, Carnegie added up his investments and was astonished to find he had a guaranteed annual income of $50,000 in a time when a bottle of milk delivered to your doorstep cost a nickel. One late December night, in a note he wrote to himself, he debated the very personal question of whether he would continue making money or devote himself to the betterment of mankind. He resolved that by age 35, he would turn all his attentions to education, writing, and philanthropy.
Nobody was watching over his shoulder, certainly, as he wrote that letter. But in the end, he was able fairly quickly to put aside the notion that he would step out of business because he just felt the rush of the enterprise.
He was consumed by it. By 1869, when the last spike was driven in the new transcontinental railroad, Carnegie had begun a business strategy of vertical organization. He wanted ownership of the resources he needed, their delivery system, and the final manufacture of the product. He had always had a wide variety of investments, but vertical organization began to alter his business philosophy so much that one day he would sum it up by saying, "Put all your eggs in one basket and then watch that basket."
Ida M. Tarbell was one of the first female investigative journalists to write using the muckraking style. She supported herself solely on her own elegant writings, which later involved many pieces dedicating to exposing big tycoons in their unjust ways. Specifically, she wrote an expose on J.D. Rockefeller, where she both acknowledged his brilliance and pointed out the flaws in his work. It wasn't capitalism itself that drove her to write such an expose on John D. Rockefeller, but the open disregard of decent ethical business practices by the capitalists. She maintained that Standard Oil had never played fair, and that ruined their greatness for me. Andrew Carnegie believed that accumulating wealth was something that should be used to better the rest of the world. This coincided with Booker Washington's idea that wealth was needed to make a difference in the world. Ida Turnbull believed that wealth, and specifically capitalism, used in the right way could be good, but the mismanagement in her society led her to think poorly of those who accumulated wealth.